Hello everyone, I am Amrita Zadhav ma'am. As we have learned two parts of mechanical properties of fluids, I am here with the third part of mechanical properties of fluid. That is your second chapter in new syllabus. So in this part, we are going to study a new phenomena which deals with the fluid itself. That is nothing but surface tension. So let's move towards our lecture. So here are some points which we are going to cover in this lecture. One is surface tension that I have already told you. Surface tension, then molecular theory which deals with surface tension itself. Then we are going to prove the relation between surface energy and surface tension. Then angle of contact. After that, shape of the liquid drop. Then what are the factors which affects on surface tension that we are going to see in this. After that, we are going to see excess pressure, then capillary action and motion of fluids. So let's move towards the first point, which is surface tension. Before going towards surface tension, we have to deal with the molecular theory which explains surface tension phenomena. So let's move towards next slide. So here is the slide which explains molecular theory of surface tension. Before going towards the molecular theory, let's see some example which you daily deals with that examples. For example, if you are saying a soap bubble is always in a spherical form that you all know. Then second example is water spider can easily walk over a still water. All right. Then third, you may say that it creates dimple when it walks on the surface of water. So in all the example, what we can see is a steel water can show a very interesting property is nothing but surface tension. So these all examples is nothing but the examples of surface tension. So we are going to study the phenomena which is surface tension. So moving towards that, we have to consider some points which deals with the surface tension which is being explained by the molecular theory. All right. So first we are going to see what is the intermolecular forces. First point in molecular theory is intermolecular forces. So what is intermolecular forces? The word itself says intermolecular, the force which is in internal of molecules. So that is nothing but intermolecular forces. So the force between the molecules is called as intermolecular forces. But it may be have two kinds of forces, which may be the two kinds. First, if the force is between the same kind of substances, it may have one force, and if the force is between the different kinds of substances, it may have the second force. So basically, depending on the type of the material or type of the substance, we are getting two types of intermolecular forces. One is cohesive force and second one is adhesive force. So first we are going to say is cohesive force. So what is cohesive force? The force which is the force of attraction between the molecules of the same substance. I am repeating, force of attraction between the molecules of the same substance is called as cohesive force. That means force of attraction between liquid, force of attraction between air and air. That is nothing but cohesive force. Now the second one, it must be the opposite of this. That is the force of attraction between the molecules of different substances is called as adhesive force. So you may say that the force of attraction between liquid and solid, liquid and air and solid, this kind of force of attraction is nothing but adhesive force. All right. So what we have seen in this slide is intermolecular forces. The force of attraction between the molecules is called intermolecular forces. It has two types. First is cohesive, second is adhesive. Cohesive means force between the same substances. Second is force between the different substances, and both are force of attraction. Okay, clear? Then moving towards the next point of molecular theory, that is range of molecular forces. As we have seen, there is a force, it must have some range. That range is nothing but maximum distance up to which molecular forces are effective. that distance is called as range of molecular forces. It is very easy. Again, I am repeating, the maximum distance from a molecule up to which the molecular forces is effective. Which are the molecular forces? Either cohesive or adhesive. That force is very effective within some distance. That distance is called as range of molecular force. Alright. So let's move towards the next point, which is sphere of influence. Now, as the word itself says, sphere of influence. Influence of what? Intermolecular forces. So we are going to imagine a sphere within the liquid for which molecule is at the center, and radius of this sphere is nothing but range of molecular forces. Okay, so we are going to imagine a sphere which is there inside the liquid. For that liquid or for that sphere, molecule is at the center and radius is nothing but range of molecular forces. That is called as sphere of influence. So what happens to the internal forces? The main concept is here. The intermolecular forces are effective only. The intermolecular force is effective only within this sphere of influence, because it says that influence under this intermolecular forces are effective. Alright, so this is the main property or main theory of molecule. Let's move towards the next point, surface film. So surface film. So the surface layer we are going to consider, suppose consider a container which is having liquid. So the layer is made up of liquid because the liquid is poured in the container. Suppose it is a water. So the outermost layer has the thickness equal to range of molecular forces. The outermost layer or the surface layer of a liquid with thickness equal to range of molecular forces, that is called as surface film. It is outside the liquid area. Okay, that is surface film. Next is free surface. The word itself saying free surface. What will be that? When there is no any kind of force acted in any surface area, then that will be called as free surface of liquid. It is the surface of fluid which does not experience any shear stress. Stress is what we have learned about the stress. Stress is force upon area. Shear stress means what? It changes the shape or size, right? So shear stress means nothing but force upon area. So if there is no any kind of force acted in any area or acted in any surface, that surface is nothing but free surface of a liquid. Alright. So let's move toward the main part, which is surface tension on the basis of molecular theory. So to explain the surface tension phenomena, let's have a look to the diagram. There are two diagrams, A and B, you can see over there. A diagram is nothing but the sphere of influence, which we have studied in the last slide. And then second is, there is a container which is having liquid. The liquid is water. Consider a liquid as water. Then we have three sphere of influences over there. First is A, which is well immersed in the liquid. B, some part is above the liquid surface, which is there in air. And C is half of it part is in liquid and half part is in air column. So now we are going to study what is surface tension on basis or considering all these three molecules. Look at the diagram. What will happen to the point or to the molecule A? As it is well deep inside the liquid, what happens? Molecule A is acted upon equally cohesive force because it is between the liquid. So the molecule will create a cohesive force which is equal substances, force between equal substances. So molecule A is acted upon by equal cohesive force in all direction. It is given over there. Within the sphere, the direction is given. That is the direction of forces which is there inside it. So then what will be the net cohesive force acting on the molecule A? As they are equally in all the direction and it is a sphere, it may get cancelled. So the net cohesive force acting on molecule A is 0. and it is well immersed in the liquid. So that is the consideration, or that is the review for molecule A. Alright. So let's move towards next point. Next a molecule, that is B molecule. What happens with B? Some part is in air and some part is in liquid. What happens with that? You can see that a larger part of this molecule B is in liquid surface and smaller part is in air. So due to this, what happens? The molecules which are there inside the liquid are attracting that molecule to pull. They are pulling that molecule, B molecule, within the liquid because it is very lesser in air medium. So the molecules which are there inside the air medium are very less as compared to the molecules which are there in liquid surface. So as the molecules are very highest in liquid, they are pulling molecule B inside, well inside the liquid. So the adhesive force is acting on molecule B due to air molecule above it. Alright. So what you can conclude from this molecule, within its sphere of influence, the adhesive force is what? Weak or strong? It may be weak. It is weak. But again it is moving or pulling inside the liquid. Alright. Now, what happens with molecule C? I have put a point. I have put a point of molecule C is molecule C also gets attracted in the liquid. I have written directly on the slide. Why is it so? Because molecule C is halfly immersed in liquid and halfly it is in air column. So what happens with that molecule? As we have said that it is a water fluid and the air molecules are there in the half part of C. The molecules which are halfly influences the liquid or the molecule C are very stronger as compared to the air molecules. Why is it so? Because it is due to density. Density of air is very less as compared to density of water. What is the density? Density is nothing but mass per unit or per volume. M divided by V is density. That is higher for water as compared to air molecules. So again in this case, in case of molecule C, what happens? C is also attracted inside the liquid. So in all these three conditions, what you can conclude? All A molecule, B molecule and C molecule are attracted inside the liquid. So what happens with the surface area, or what we have learned in previous slide, that is surface film. What happens to the surface film? It is always under the tension. It is always under the tension because all the molecules which are there inside the fluid are acted upon a force. They are always try to attract the molecules which are in their range. So the tension, surface film is under the tension and it acts like a elastic membrane. So you can see over here xy and xy dash. Alright, so that xy is nothing but surface film. So according to this, or by considering all these conclusions of three molecules, you can say that the force due to surface tension, the tension which is there on the surface of liquid, the force due to surface tension acts tangential to the free surface of liquid, and that is nothing but surface tension. So let us define surface tension now. Okay, let's move towards the definition and unit of surface tension. Okay, according to molecular theory, we have derived or we have seen some phenomena which are related to surface tension. Now we are going to see the definition of surface tension. So surface tension, which is denoted by capital T, is defined as the tangential force acting per unit length on both sides of an imaginary line drawn on the free surface of liquid. I am repeating. Surface tension T defined as the tangential force acting per unit length on both sides of an imaginary line drawn on the free surface of the liquid. So by using the definition, we can state the formula as capital T is equal to force, that is F divided by length, unit length, so that is L. So T is equal to F divided by L. Looking at the formula, you can specify SI unit and dimensions also. So what will be the SI unit of surface tension? Unit for force is nothing but Newton and unit for length is nothing but meter. So by combining that, we are getting unit for surface tension is Newton per meter. Then its dimensions. What will be its dimension? We have to consider a dimension for F and we have to consider dimension for L. By recombining both of them, we are getting dimensions L1, M1, T minus 2. L1, M1, T minus 2. Okay. So let's derive the relation between surface energy and surface tension. You have already studied about surface tension. Now by using this derivation, we are going to study what is surface energy. And also we are getting another kind of definition of surface tension also. And we are getting another formula of surface tension by using this derivation. Alright. So let's move toward the derivation. Look at the diagram. In diagram, what you can see, the diagram consisting of a P, P dash, S, S dash, a rectangular frame. We are going to consider P, P dash, S, S dash as a rectangular frame of wire. It is only frame of wire. Then it is fitted with a movable arm, which is QR. A movable arm is there whose length is capital L. Alright, now what we are going to do, this frame is dipped in a soap solution and then taken out. What happens to this to that rectangular frame of wire? A film is created within the loop. What is that loop? That loop is PQRS. Within the loop, a film is produced. Now all the boundaries or all the arms are producing force on the liquid as it is a film. So force is applied on QR also, force is applied on PS also, because all are the arms of rectangular frame. So we are going to consider a force which is acting on QR. Now as we said, all arms are producing force due to the film. That QR, which is movable, it is trying to move towards PS. It is going towards PS and it is decreasing the area of surface film. So as it is decreasing area of surface film, we have to increase the area so as to form the larger film. Alright, so we are going to consider another external force which is F dash, and it is equal but it is in opposite direction to that of F. The amount will be same but it is in opposite direction, so as we can increase the surface area. So if we are saying QR is moving towards PS, that means to decrease the area, what happens to the force? Force will be T into 2L. As the definition of T says, force upon length. F by L is the definition of surface tension, right? But we are taking here as 2L. Why 2L? Because the surface area is of two sides, upper and lower. There are two sides of the surface film. So we are going to consider that as 2L. So the force which is required to move QR towards TS is F is equal to T into 2L. This is clear. Then next, what we are going to do, we are going to apply a external force F dash which is equal and opposite, and we are going to increase the area by moving that piston QR to Q dash R dash. When it is moving towards Q dash R dash, it displaces. The distance is dx. Why we are going to take as dx? Because it is in very smaller amount. So that's why we are taking it as dx. Length is 2L, displacement or distance is dx. So it produces some work done. Work is done against the force. So what will be that? Against the force F dash. What I am saying, work is done against the force F dash. So dW is equal to F dash into dx. Now as f dash is equal and opposite with respect to f, we are going to put the values without considering a sign of it. So dw is nothing but t into 2l into dx. Alright, by putting the values of f, which is t into 2l, we are getting dw as t 2l dx. But what is 2l into dx? That is nothing but the increase in area of the two surfaces of the film. Why is it so? Because it is a rectangular frame. It is in rectangular form. So length into breadth is nothing but the area. So you are getting 2l into dx. So that is length into breadth. So you are getting that as increase in area. So as it is increase in area, we are saying as dA. Alright, so therefore you are getting dw as t into dA. Now what happens when the work is done? This work done is actually working as potential energy to move that piston outside. So this is nothing but energy. That energy is called as surface energy. So this work done is converted into a surface energy. So you're getting the relation between surface energy and surface tension as surface energy is equal to T into dA. Or you can directly say that surface tension is surface energy per area or increase in area. Alright, are you getting what I'm talking about? We have derived relation between surface energy and surface tension. In short, I'm going to tell you again. We are going to consider a rectangular frame of P dash S S dash. Alright, it is having a movable arm QR. If the force is acting on QR, when you are going to dip the rectangular frame in soap solution, a film will be created within the loop. Within the loop PQRS. So all the arms will create a force on it. So we are going to consider a force F which is acted on QR when it is moving towards PS. And we are going to consider external force F dash when QR is moving away. When to increase the area, that is towards Q dash R dash, that force is F dash. Both are equal and opposite. Numerically they are equal, but by signing, considering sign, they are opposite in direction. Alright, so length of that QR movable arm is L, and when we are going to increase the area, it displaces dx, distance dx. So we are going to consider mainly two formulas. First one is F, second one is dw. Alright, F is nothing but T into 2L because it has two surface area. So you are getting F is equal to T into 2L, and then we are going to consider dw, that is work done, is F dash into dx. We are going to put value for F inside it. Then by considering the increase in area term, which is 2L into dx, you are getting dw as T into dA. It is as simple as that. We are just going to remind only two equations. By using that two equations, you can derive all the derivation. First is F is equal to T into 2L, and second one is dw is equal to F dash into dx. F and F dash are equal. By putting the value of F in dw, you are getting T 2L dx. Now 2L into dx is nothing but dA. So you are getting dw is equal to T into dA. So this work done is nothing but the potential energy. So this is called as surface energy. So surface energy is equal to T into dA. So this is the relation between surface energy and surface tension. Okay, I hope you all get this derivation. You have to practice it and then you can do that. But it is so easy. You can all see this again and you can do that. Okay, we have seen already the relation between surface energy and surface tension in earlier slide. Now let's move towards our next concept, which is angle of contact. As the word itself says, it is the angle when any two substances becomes in contact with each other. So in this, we are going to consider two surfaces as one surface is liquid and another surface is solid. Alright, so when liquid surface comes in contact with the solid surface, it forms a meniscus. Now that meniscus may be convex or maybe concave. That depends on two conditions. The angle of contact may be acute or may be obtuse. When the angle of contact is acute, the liquid forms a concave meniscus. And when the angle of contact is obtuse, it forms a convex meniscus. Alright, so it depends on the nature of substances also, that means nature of solid and liquid surface also. Alright, so let's move toward our next point, which is shape of meniscus, which depends on angle of contact. Alright, so first shape that we are going to see is concave meniscus, which is being created by acute angle of contact. So have a look in this diagram. What you can see, there are three interfaces. First is solid, second is liquid, and third is air. The molecules which are there inside a liquid will give you force of cohesion because there are molecules of same substances. So the force will created is nothing but force of cohesion. Now when two different substances comes in contact with each other, they will form force of adhesion. So when liquid comes in contact with solid, what you are going to say, the force which is created between them is force of adhesion. Now what happens, in some cases force of adhesion becomes greater than force of cohesion, and in some cases force of cohesion becomes greater than force of adhesion. So depending on that also we can see the shape of the meniscus. Alright. So in this case, in case of kerosene and glass bottle, the angle of adhesion becomes very much greater than the force of cohesion. So let's see what happens over here. So A, you can see in the diagram, A is the point which is in contact with liquid as well as in solid. Alright, we are going to consider a sphere of influence. We have already studied what is sphere of influence. Sphere of influence is the concept in which center of that sphere is a molecule itself and radius is nothing but range of molecular forces. Alright, so we are going to consider a sphere of influence. Center is A. Now AP is acting on molecule A. AP bar, it should be there. AP bar on molecule A is horizontal, that you can see in the diagram. And AC bar is the net cohesive force which is acting on point A. Cohesive force, that is within the liquid itself. So AC is net cohesive force acting on molecule. Alright. So now what should happen over there? There should be equilibrium between solid and liquid. To form that equilibrium, or for the stability of liquid surface, what happens at the surface? All the molecules which are in liquid will try to pile up against the solid boundary. As I have said, in this case, force of adhesion is greater than force of cohesion. So what happens? All the liquid try to move towards the solid surface. When they are moving towards solid surface, they will try to climb up on one another. So as they climb up or they pile up against the solid boundary, it feels like concave. So the meniscus which is formed at the surface is nothing but concave. And in this case, what happens? The liquid weights the solid surface. Alright. Now, in another terms, what we can say, for equilibrium or for stability of a liquid surface, that net force, which is AR and AC, that should be normal to each other. To become it normal, all the molecule goes up and they create AT. Alright. So as you can see, AR and AT are nearly perpendicular to each other. They are normal to each other. So this, to happen this, all the molecules which are there inside the liquid try to pile up on the wall of the liquid surface, on the solid surface. So they form concave meniscus. Alright. In case of concave meniscus, acute angle is there and force of adhesion is greater than force of cohesion. Okay, so let's move toward the another meniscus which should be convex. Let's move towards that. So let's move toward our next shape of the meniscus, which is convex meniscus, which is being formed by obtuse angle of contact. Again, in this case, we are going to consider two concepts. First one is force of adhesion and force of cohesion. Angle of contact, what is that? And then next one is for equilibrium condition, what should be happen in both the cases, in liquid and solid also. Alright, and the next point is, does the liquid weight the solid surface or not? That we are going to see. All these points should be covered in that. So have a look in the diagram. Solid, liquid and air, three mediums are there. Again, point A is in contact with solid as well as in liquid. So we are going to consider a sphere of influence. Alright, now what happens in this case? We are going to consider AR, which is directed inside the liquid surface. AP is the net adhesive force which is acting on point A, and AC is another force which is acting on point A. What will be that? That will be the force of cohesion. Alright, so now in this case we are going to consider liquid as mercury and solid as glass bottle itself. In this case, what happens? Force of adhesion is very less as compared to force of cohesion. In last case, what happens over there? As the force of adhesion was very greater, so the liquid was going towards the surface. Now it is inverse over here. Force of cohesion is greater. So what will happen? Liquid will come towards inside. It will move all the particle inside the liquid. So what happens in this case? It will look like a convex surface, right? And now for equilibrium or for the stability of a liquid surface, the net force, which is AR, acting on all the molecules, should be what? Should be normal to the liquid surface at all the points. To maintain this, to stabilize this, what should be there? What happens over there? All the molecules will try to come inside the liquid surface itself, and it will give you the substance or the angle of contact which is obtuse, and meniscus becomes convex. And you can see in this diagram the angle which is between AT and AR is normal to each other. Now, either they weight the surface or not, they will not weight the surface. Such liquids do not weight the solid surface. So, this is all about the convex meniscus. Now, what happens if angle is 0? We have seen when the angle is acute, it will give you a concave meniscus. When it is obtuse, it will give you a convex meniscus. Now, when the angle of contact is 0, what happens over there? Either it weight or it does not weight. It will weight the solid surface completely, and it is in the case of highly pure water and glass surface. Clean glass and pure water. This happens. So angle of contact becomes completely 0, and they completely weight the solid surface. So you can see in this diagram, liquid, air and solid, theta is equal to 0, and AP or AR is completely perpendicular to each other, tangent at 80. So theta becomes 0. Okay. So this is all about angle of contact. Now the next is shape of liquid drop on a solid surface. Now what happens if you drop any liquid surface on a solid surface? They will neither spread over the surface, they will neither create a meniscus, so they will create some droplets. So what is the shape of that liquid drop when they are dropped on a solid surface? Alright, so we are going to see that. To see that, you can have a look in the diagram. We have to consider the surface tension or the force due to surface tension between all the three mediums. Which are the three mediums? Liquid, solid and air. So let's consider all the three forces. First is T1, which is force due to surface tension at the liquid and solid interface. T2 is the force due to surface tension at air and solid interface, and T3 is the force due to surface tension at air liquid interface. These are the three forces which we have to consider. Now, as the force due to surface tension is tangential to the surfaces in contact, these all forces are what? It should be tangential to the surfaces in contact. So for the equilibrium condition, for that, Equilibrium condition for that is T2 is equal to T1 plus T3 cos theta, as you can see in this slide. What is T2? Force due to air solid interface. T1 force due to liquid solid interface, and T3 is force due to air liquid interface. So it is T2 is equal to T1 plus T3 cos theta. You are just going to learn this equation. There is no proof of this equation. Alright. So by using this equation, you can calculate the value for cos theta. What will be cos theta then? T1 will move to another side, so that becomes T2 minus T1, and the T3 will goes down in denominator. So you are getting value for cos theta is nothing but T2 minus T1 upon T3. So this is the angle cos theta. Alright, on depending on the value of T1, T2 and T3, you will get angle either acute or obtuse or 90 or 0, that we are going to see. So first case will be if T2 is greater than T1. What happens over here? T2 minus T1. What will be that? It will be less than T3, as T2 is very much greater than T1. Alright. So cos theta will be positive and the angle becomes acute. So you can see in the first diagram. When the angle becomes acute, when T2, which is force between air solid interface, is greater than force between liquid solid interface, the angle becomes acute. Next case is when T2 is less than T1. So cos theta will be negative. When it becomes negative, the angle of contact will become obtuse. Here is the second diagram for that. So angle of contact becomes obtuse. Now what if T2 minus T1 is equal to T3? If T2 minus T1 is equal to T3, what happens over there? Then the term will become 1. So cos theta becomes 1. So theta is nearly equal to what? 0. And the last case is when T2 minus T1 is greater than T3. What happens over there? When T2 minus T1 is greater than T3, then cos theta should be greater than 1. But is it possible cos theta is greater than 1? No, it is not at all possible. So the liquid spreads over the solid surface and drop will not be formed. And this, when T2 minus T1 is greater than T3, cos theta should be greater than 1, which is not possible. So all the liquid will spread on the solid surface and drop will not form. So this is all about the shape of the liquid drop on a solid surface. So we have seen angle of contact, shape of meniscus, shape of liquid drop on a solid surface. Now we are going to see what will be the factors which affects on the solid surface. What will be the factors which affects on angle of contact. Sorry, not solid surface, factors affecting angle of contact. So let's see in another slide. So here is the slide which I am going to explain factors affecting angle of contact. So what are the factors which affects on the angle of contact? First one is a nature of the liquid and solid in contact. We have already discussed. When we are going to consider mercury and glass, what will be the angle? When we consider kerosene and glass, what will be that angle? And when the clean glass and clean water is considered, what will be that angle? So we have already seen in case of all these three pairs. So basic factor which affects the angle of contact is nature of the liquid and solid which is in contact. Alright, so this is the first factor. Now what will be second factor? Second factor is nothing but impurity. Impurity is present in the liquid changes the angle of contact. Now impurities may be soluble, insoluble, or it may be partly soluble. So what affects on that? We'll see. When we are going to add salt to the liquid, what happens over there? Salt will dissolve completely inside a liquid. That means completely inside the water. So it affects on the angle of contact, or it affects on the force of cohesion and adhesion. So as the force of cohesion and adhesion increase or decrease, it affects the angle of contact. So when you add soluble impurity in any liquid, surface tension goes on increases. Now, we are going to consider a second example. When impurity is partly soluble, for example, detergent or phenyl. What happens in that case? When detergent is added to liquid surface, we are going to consider it as water itself. When we add detergent to water, what happens? It partly soluble, it is partly not soluble. So in this case, it affects the force of cohesion as well as the force of adhesion. In this case, force of cohesion becomes larger or smaller when we are going to add detergent to the liquid surface. Force of cohesion becomes lesser, so it affects the angle of contact again. And third case, which is completely insoluble material. When we are going to add completely insoluble impurity inside of water, it again affects the angle of cohesion and angle of adhesion that will directly affect the angle of contact. So this is the factor which affects the angle of contact, which is impurity. First one we have seen the nature of liquid and solid in contact, and second one is impurity, which is of three types: soluble, partly soluble, and completely insoluble. Completely insoluble. Alright. Now the third factor which affects the angle of contact is temperature. As the temperature goes on increases, surface tension decreases. As the surface tension decreases, angle of contact will get affected. So, temperature is the third factor which affects the angle of contact. Okay, so these are the factors which affect the angle of contact. Okay, so here is a slide which explains the excess pressure across the free surface of a liquid. Alright, we have already seen the concept pressure, we have already seen the concept surface tension and free surface also. Alright, so what is pressure? Pressure is F upon A. Surface tension is nothing but F upon L. Force per unit length. It should be normal. Alright, so in this case we are going to say excess pressure across the free surface of a liquid. Now what happens when we are going to consider every molecule inside a liquid surface? It experiences force due to what? Due to surface tension, and it depends on what factors? It depends on angle of contact, it depends on the shape of the liquid surface. Alright, so this force is also contributing, or this force also deciding by the pressure. Which kind of pressure? The pressure at a point which is just below the liquid surface, just below the surface of liquid. So excess pressure is nothing but the pressure which is acting on a point just below the surface of liquid. Alright, so let's see. So here is another slide which explains the excess pressure. First, when plain liquid surface is there, what happens in this case? When plain liquid surface comes in your mind, you can see the diagram over here. Point B is completely within the liquid, point A is above the liquid. We are going to consider the pressure which is exerted on point B, which is below the liquid surface. Alright, so Ft is the force which is created by surface tension, that is resultant force due to surface tension. And at molecule B, what it should be? It is 0. So the force at A, which is Fa, is completely deciding by the pressure, and the pressure at A is equal to pressure at B. You can say that it decides the pressure. So Fa and Fb are same, so pressure will be same. Now the second is convex liquid surface. What will happen in this case? You can see in the diagram. B point, A point, and the force which is acted on A, which is Fa, force which is acted on B is Ft or Fb, you can say. What happens in this case? Ft should be added up by the two forces. Ft, which is force by surface tension, it should be added up by the two forces because both are, that means Fa and Fb, both are directed in the same direction. So they should be added. And you can easily say that pressure at point A should be greater as compared to pressure at point B. So due to this, you can say pressure due to Fa is greater than pressure due to Fb. That gives you convex liquid surface. Alright, or convex liquid surface gives you this condition. In case of concave, what will happen? Exactly inverse case will happen. Fa, pressure at Fa will be very less as compared to B. So it will give you a concave liquid surface. Alright, they should be opposite in direction. A will be in upward direction and B will be in downward direction. So they will not add up. Alright. So the net downward force, only the net downward force will be responsible for the pressure at B. So that will create a concave liquid surface. So this is all about excess pressure across the free surface of a liquid. In case of plane, PA is equal to PB. In case of convex, PA is greater than PB. And in case of concave, PA is less than PB. Same for F, because P is nothing but F upon A. So they are directly proportional to each other. So as the force increases, pressure also increases. Alright, so this is nothing but excess pressure. Okay, now the next concept is explanation of formation of drops and bubbles. How the drops and bubbles are formed, that we are going to see in this expression, in this slide, and the next slide also. Now the liquid drops and small bubbles are spherical in shape. Why is it so? Because surface tension, the force which is by surface tension, dominates the gravitational force. So it becomes spherical in shape. Okay, so consider a spherical drop which is shown in the diagram. You can see that pressure which is inside the liquid drop is Pi, pressure which is outside the liquid drop is P0. We have considered the imaginary sphere around the original sphere. The radius is r, and as we see, the increase in radius is nothing but delta r. So total increase in radius will be r plus delta r, as the pressure inside the spherical membrane is Pi and outside it is P0. The excess pressure inside the drop, excess pressure which is inside the drop, that will be Pi minus P0. Alright, we are going to consider in terms of this. So we are going to consider the surface energies, surface areas of both the surfaces, which is inside and outside. Initial surface area of drop, which will be A1, is nothing but 4 pi r square, small r square. And the final surface area, when the radius is being increased up to r plus delta r, final surface area will be A2. It is nothing but 4 pi into bracket, what will be that? It will be r plus delta r bracket square. So this is nothing but A2, that is final surface area of the drop. Alright, so let's expand the bracket, which is r plus delta r. What we are getting? A2 will be 4 pi will be as it is. By expanding the bracket, square bracket, it will be r square plus twice r delta r plus delta r bracket square, or delta r square itself. Okay, so I am going to multiply 4 pi inside the bracket. We are getting A2 is equal to 4 pi r square plus 8 pi r delta r plus 4 pi delta r square. As you can see, delta r is very smaller, so you can neglect delta r square. So you are getting A2 as, by neglecting delta r square term, you are getting A2 as 4 pi r square plus 8 pi r delta r. We have neglect the term delta r square, so the total term is 4 pi delta r square. It has been neglected. So you are getting final surface area of the drop A2 is equal to 4 pi r square 8 pi r delta r. Now the increase in surface area of drop will be what? It will be dA. It is denoted by dA, and it is nothing but A2 minus A1. What is A2? A2 is 4 pi r square plus 8 pi r delta r. And what is A1? A1 is only 4 pi r square. By subtracting both the areas, we are getting 8 pi r delta r only, because 4 pi r square get cancelled. First one is having plus sign, second one is having negative sign. So 4 pi r square get cancelled and you're getting dA as 4 pi r delta r itself. Now the work done in increasing the surface area by dA is stored as excess surface energy. So what is surface energy? Surface energy is been created by the work done. So dW is nothing but T into dA. We have derived this formula in previous slides. So dW is equal to TdA. We are going to substitute the value of dA over here. So you are getting dW is equal to T into 8 pi r delta r. Alright. But what is the basic formula for now work done? Work done is nothing but force into displacement, right? What displacement have happened over there? Displacement is delta r. So dW is nothing but F into delta r. Then what will be the axis force? Axis force is nothing but axis pressure into surface area. So F is equal to, what is axis pressure? Pi minus P0. So F is equal to Pi minus P0 into initial surface area we are going to consider. So that is 4 pi r square. Now by putting the value of F into the equation of dW, we are getting dW is equal to Pi minus P0 4 pi r square into delta r. We have put equation F inside the equation dW is equal to F delta r. So we have get another formula for dW, which is Pi minus P0 4 pi r square into delta r. So we got two equations of dW. First one is T into 8 pi r delta r and second one is Pi minus P0 4 pi r square into delta r. So we can equate both the equations. So by equating the equations we get Pi minus P0 is equal to 2T by r. All the same terms will get cancelled as they are equating with each other. So you are only getting Pi minus P0 is equal to 2T upon r. So this is the equation which gives the axis pressure inside the drop, and this is called as Laplace law of spherical membrane. This law is known as Laplace law of spherical membrane. Alright, you are getting Pi minus P0 is equal to 2T by r. So what happens in case of soap bubble? The membrane or the area becomes double. So dA becomes twice 8 pi r delta r. So the total increase in surface area, it becomes twice 8 pi r delta r. And the work done also becomes change. So you are getting the final value for bubble is Pi minus P0 is double the previous value, that is 4T upon r. Alright, for general equation it is 2T by r excess pressure, and for soap bubble or bubble it is 4T upon r. So this is all about the excess pressure. I hope you all got the expression. You can go through it, you will come to understand. Now in this slide we are going to study one more phenomena which comes under surface tension. It is nothing but capillary action. Alright, so first we'll see what is capillary tube, what is capillarity, then we'll see what is capillary action. Alright, so first see what is capillary tube. So capillary tube is nothing but a tube having very fine bore, just like a refill. But in case of refill, a pin is there, and in case of capillary tube, it is open at both the ends. Alright, just consider a refill which does not having a nip on it. So that will become a capillary tube. But it should have a fine bore nearly equal to 1 mm and open at both the ends. That is called as capillary tube. When such kind of tube is dipped into water, what happens in that case? Water either will rise inside it or it will fall down. So that phenomena, which is rising or falling of a liquid inside a capillary tube, when it is dipped in a liquid, is called as capillarity. Alright, so what we have seen, first we have seen what is capillary tube, second we have seen what is capillarity. Capillary tube is a tube having very fine bore approximately equal to 1 mm, which is open at both the ends. So that is capillary tube. and the phenomenon of rise or fall of liquid inside a capillary tube when it is dipped in a liquid is called as capillarity. Alright, pipette you must have been used in chemistry practical. In case of pipette, what you've done, you close one end of the pipette and the water will suck inside the pipette. Alright, so that is nothing but capillary action, which in that case what happens, rise of liquid inside a capillary tube happens. So we are going to see some applications of capillarity. By using that application you may come to know what is capillary action. So these are some applications. First application is cloth rack suck water. Oil rises up in wick of a lamp. You must have done this when ink fall on our desk or on a book. What you immediately does, you take a chalk and suck that ink on the chalk. So that is also the example of capillarity. And photosynthesis process, in that process what happens, sap and water rises up to the topmost leaves in the tree. So that is nothing but the capillary action. Blotting paper absorbs ink. As I said, chalk also absorbs ink. That is the capillary action. And water rises up in crevices in rocks. That is nothing but capillarity. So these all the example explains the phenomena which is capillarity, which deals with capillary tube. Alright. Okay, in this we are going to learn about expression for capillary rise or fall, which deals with the capillary action. Obviously, when capillary tube is dipped in liquid, the rise or fall of liquid which is inside capillary tube, the term is called as H, either rise or fall, height increase of liquid inside the capillary tube, that we are going to find out. So to find that, we have two methods. First method is using pressure difference and second method is using forces. Now in exam what happens, you might get confused about this, by which method you are going to do. If they have not asked method, you can go by your own, which you have prepared either by using pressure difference or by using forces. But if they ask directly, express the capillary rise or fall or find out the relation between H and T by using forces, then you can only use the second method. If they have said that using forces or they have asked one of the method, then you can go with any method. If they specify any method, you have to write down with the method itself. Alright, so let's go with the first method, which is by using pressure difference. Now have a look at the diagram in which capillary tube is there, and small r is the radius of capillary tube, which is approximately equal to 1 millimeter, and the capital R is nothing but radius of meniscus, which is forming inside a capillary tube. Alright, now as we have said, this method deals with the pressure difference. So we have to consider the relation which is being derived previously, which is Pi minus P0. So pressure difference is nothing but 2T by R. In case of water solution, we are going to consider it as a water itself, not a bubble or not a soap solution. So simply pressure difference is 2T upon R due to concavity. And according to the definition of pressure, what is that? It is H rho G. So both are the pressures. First is 2T by R and second is H rho G. So we have to equate both the equations. So you are getting H rho G is equal to 2T by R. Alright. Now to compare both the radius of meniscus and radius of capillary tube, we have drawn an angle in which you can see theta angle. Alright. So by considering that triangle, what will be cos theta? Cos theta will be adjacent side divided by hypotenuse. Adjacent side is smaller and hypotenuse is capital R. So cos theta becomes smaller upon capital R. By using that, we can find out the value for capital R. So capital R is nothing but small r upon cos theta. By putting the value of capital R in above equation, what we can get? H rho G is equal to, instead of R, we are going to put R upon cos theta. So it becomes 2T cos theta divided by R. As r is in denominator, it completely becomes reverse. So cos theta comes in numerator and small r goes in denominator. So h rho g is equal to 2t cos theta upon r. By using this equation, you can directly find out value for h. H is nothing but 2t cos theta divided by r rho g, in which you may have given value for theta, value for t, r is given, rho should be known because it is the density of the liquid. If water is there, it should be given, or any liquid is there, rho should be given. J is nothing but 9.8. So you can find out H, that is either rise or fall. In this case, it is a rise. So H can be calculated by using many of the term, in which T, theta, R, rho and G are considered. G is constant, which is 9.8, and rho is also constant because same liquid material is being used. R is constant because capillary is same, so R will be same. So it depends on angle of theta and surface tension, which is T. So let us consider the second method. I hope you all get this method, which is by using pressure difference. It is very easy. By considering two equations, we have derived all the equations. Final equation. First equation was pressure difference and pressure, that is H rho G is equal to 2T by R. By considering the relation between small r and capital R, we have derived the final formula for H. Now let us consider either we get the same formula by using second method or not. The second method deals with the forces. Again, we are going to consider a capillary tube in which water has been rises, and we are going to consider the forces which are against the gravity. Alright, so Ft is the force which has been exerted by surface tension, and the force which is created by the gravity, which will be weight, that will be mg. So mg will be in downward sense and Ft will be in upward direction. So as it is in vertical component, so it should be multiplied by cos theta. I have told you all the direction and dimensions, why it is taken as cos theta itself. I have already taught you in last year. So this is vertical component of force, which is Ft cos theta, that must be balanced by the downward component, which is mg. Alright, so first see what is Ft. We are going to calculate Ft first. According to the definition of surface tension is nothing but F upon length, F upon L. Alright, so what will be Ft then? Ft will be surface tension into length in contact. As it is in spherical sense, it should be 2 pi r. So Ft is nothing but T into 2 pi r. As we have seen, the vertical component is been multiplied by cos theta. So Ft V is for vertical component. Ft V is equal to T into 2 pi r into cos theta. So let us consider three more terms, that is V volume, M mass. By using that mass, we can find out the weight of the liquid surface or the liquid drop. W is equal to mg. Right? To find out m, we have to consider the concept which is density, which is nothing but mass upon volume. So let's find out V. What will be V in this case? It is nothing but pi r square h. Why is it so? Pi r square, it is in terms of rectangle. We can see in this case. Alright, so V is equal to pi r square h. What will be m then? It must be V into rho. V is pi r square h into rho. That will be m. Now we'll see what is W. It is nothing but m into g. M is nothing but pi r square h into rho into g. So you're getting W. So W and vertical component of this force should be balanced to each other. So pi r square h rho g is equal to 2 pi r t cos theta. In this case, what happens? What get cancelled out? One of the r will get cancelled. Pi will get cancelled. So you are getting h as 2t cos theta upon r rho g, which is same as above. And you are getting t as hr rho g divided by 2 cos theta. By using this equation, you can say T depends on what factors? T depends on R, H, rho, G, as well as theta. It is directly proportional to radius. It is directly proportional to the height rise, directly proportional to the density, to gravity, and inversely proportional to the angle of contact, which is theta. So this is all about expression of T, which is surface tension, and height rise, which is H. Okay. Have a look again in both the slides. You will come to know what is capillary rise and fall. All right. So this is all about surface tension. What we have already learned in case of surface tension, we have seen molecular theory. We have seen two types of forces, cohesive and adhesive. Then we have seen angle of contact. We have seen the definition. We have seen the SI unit and dimension for that. We have derived the relation between surface energy and surface tension. Then droplets we have seen, shape of a drop and a liquid we have seen. Alright. By all these concepts we have seen capillarity, capillary action we have seen. And after that the final point was surface tension in capillary rise and fall case. Alright. So here is the last term which we are going to deal with, the fluid, which is fluids in motion. Right. The branch of physics which deals with the study of properties of fluid in motion is called as hydrodynamics. Hydro is nothing but water and dynamics is the branch of physics. Physics which deals with the water itself, that means fluid itself. So we are going to deal with this. Okay. So you can see in the diagram. In diagram you can see a pipe is there in which flow lines is given, area is given, and flow tubes are given. Now we'll consider one by one each term and I will explain it to you. Right. First we are going to explain. I am going to explain its flow line. So you can see in the diagram some lines are moving. So it is the path of an individual particle in moving fluid. Alright. It is the path of individual particle in a moving fluid. It is called as flow lines. So it is individually given. Arrow is given. That means direction is given. Second is streamline. It is the curve whose tangent at any point in the flow is in direction of the velocity of flow at that point. So what the streamline gave? Streamline gives you the direction of velocity of the flow. Alright. It is the curve whose tangent at any point gives you the direction of velocity at that point. So this phenomena actually analogous to the lines of forces in case of magnetism and in case of electrostatics also. Lines of force is nothing but it gives the direction of either magnetic field or electric field. So in case of fluids, that property has been explained by streamline. So streamline is the concept in which it is the curve whose tangent at any point will give you direction of velocity of that fluid at that point. Alright. So these are the two concepts. In what happens in case of steady flow? If the flow is very steady, streamline and flow lines are identical to each other in case of steady flow. Right. So let's move towards flow tube. What will be flow tube? It is an imaginary bundle of flow lines bound by an imaginary wall. Wall is imaginary and it is considered as imaginary concept. Flow tube. Alright. In case of steady flow, what happens with that? In case of steady flow, fluid cannot cross the walls of a flow tube. Alright. So fluids in adjacent flow tubes cannot mix. If we are going to consider one flow tube and another flow tube, the both will not mix with each other. One flow tube will having a flow of fluid inside it. It will be different as compared to the another flow tube. Alright. Next one is laminar flow or streamline flow. This is a steady flow which we can consider in case of well and river. In that, it is the steady flow in which adjacent layers of fluids move over one another. They will not interfere with the walls of any container. They will move very smoothly. move smoothly over each other. So steady flow of a river can be assumed to be a laminar flow, or in a or in a well, it is a laminar flow or a streamline flow. Alright. What will be the opposite of that? Waterfall, tap water, or when flood comes in a river, what happens over there? It will not be a steady flow. Velocity will be very different at every point. In case of steady, what happens? Velocity will be same, or it vary, but it is in smooth flow. In case of turbulent, it is not smooth. Flow is very high. Flow rate is really very high, and it changes its pattern continuously. Alright, so that is called as turbulent flow. So in next slide, we are going to see the difference between both of them, in streamline flow and turbulent flow. Okay, so I hope you all got this concept, what is fluid in motion, that is what is hydrodynamics, what is flow line, streamline, flow tube, laminar flow or streamline flow, and turbulent flow. This is the basics about this. What is flow line? It is the path of individual particle in moving fluid. Streamline, it is the curve whose tangent at any point gives you the direction of velocity of that fluid. Flow tube is the imaginary bundle of flow lines bounded by an imaginary wall. Laminar flow is the steady flow in which adjacent layer of fluid moves smoothly over one another. And turbulent flow is the flow in which very high flow rate is there, and that there is no steady flow in that, and flow patterns are changing continuously. All right, so let's see the more difference between them. So here is the chart which is showing the difference between streamline flow and turbulent flow. First point, I always told you that you have to write first point as a definition of both the terms. Then you can differentiate the definition and you can get many points. And one, you can write the example of it. Alright, so first point deals with the definition itself. In case of streamline flow, the smooth flow of fluid with velocity smaller than a certain critical velocity. Alright. Second, turbulent flow. Turbulent flow is the irregular and unsteady flow of fluid when its velocity increases always. Alright. Next point is streamline. Is in streamline flow, velocity of fluid at a given point is always constant as it is a steady flow. In case of turbulent, what will happen? Velocity will goes on changing, so it will not be same. Third point in streamline flow is two streamlines can never intersect. They always in parallel. And what happens with turbulent flow? In turbulent flow, at some point the fluid may have rotational motion which rises to an idle. Alright, so they may interact with each other in case of turbulent flow. Last point is streamlined flow over a plane surface can be assumed to be divided into number of plane layers. Yes, because it is a streamlined flow. They flow from on one and another. So there may be number of plane layers over there. Alright. But in case of turbulent, what happens? A flow tube loses its holder and particles move in random directions. And in streamline flow, what happens? They are in same direction. They are going. In case of river, they are moving with the same flow. In case of turbulent, when we consider a waterfall, tremendous velocity is there and all the particles are randomly moving inside the liquid. So this is the some basics of difference between streamline and turbulent flow. So this is all about the term surface tension that we all have done in this part, which is part 3. I hope you all get, and if in case of any query, do comment. If this PPT is also not audible, please install WPS app by which you can listen to my voice. You can understand all the slides which is included in this PPT. So thank you so much for listening to this part. Thank you. And in case of query, please comment. I will solve your query.